What up, Jags fans? So last week I came on this channel and we broke down that Trevor Lawrence has officially signed a 5-year extension with the Jacksonville Jaguars. However, one of the things that we really didn't get into was the actual details of the contract. And the reason why we didn't is because over the next few days after a contract is signed, more and more details kind of spill out about basically the new contract. So to tell you guys a little bit about it, when we saw the contract get signed on Thursday, we immediately knew, okay, 5-year deal, $275 million. That comes out to like $55 million per year. And there was also $200 million guaranteed. And there is $142 million given to him upon signing the new contract. So those kind of details are given to us. So a lot of times what people do when they look at these new deals is they look at the total amount of the deal and they divide it by the number of years. Okay, so this was a $275 million deal. Divide that by 5 and you get $55 million per year, which is tied with quarterback Joe Burrow for most in the NFL. However, there is another metric that kind of needs to be brought into place on this. It is called AAV, which stands for Average Annual Value. Now, what this does, it accounts for guarantees and bonuses. It accounts for all that in there. And then basically when you do this number, Trevor Lawrence is actually making $40.4 million per year, which is actually turns out to be the 11th highest paid quarterback. So, basically when you look at this deal and you say $275 million, that's kind of like an up to number. Okay. He can make up to this amount of money. And I know this kind of comparison is a little bit like apples to oranges, but not a lot of us regular people are signing $5 million contracts with the different employers that we have. But it would be like if you sign on to be a car salesman somewhere and someone says, oh, you can make anywhere between $40,000 a year to $120,000 per year. Are you going to go out and tell people that you're making $120,000 a year? No. If Trevor Lawrence goes out and does kind of the bare minimum and doesn't really do all that well, he's not going to make nearly as much money. I think it'll be like $200 million per year, basically, somewhere around that area. But if Trevor Lawrence goes out there and he's playing every single game, he's making Pro Bowls, he's leading the Jaguars to the Super Bowl, then he's going to earn that full $275 million. And then all of a sudden you're saying, okay, $55 million a year for an all-pro quarterback that's leading us into deep playoff runs. Yeah, that is worth it. So these are the kind of things that, you have to kind of look into. And with this, always the highest paid quarterback is always the next highest paid quarterback, okay? And also when another thing that's kind of on here too is that there's a no trade clause, okay? So Trevor Lawrence cannot be traded in this deal, which I'm definitely happy about because I was a little bit worried, I'm not going to lie, toward the end of last season when I looked at the Jaguars roster, I'm like, man, the Jaguars really provided him with a terrible offensive line that was getting him hurt all the time. He's in an organization that does not really have a history of winning. And, they didn't really pair him up with some of the, when you compare him to Joe Burrow or any of these players, like compare him to, say, a Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Look at Tua. Tua has Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. The Jaguars' top two guys are, Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. And Calvin Ridley, a little bit disappointing. Christian Kirk, don't really have much bad to say against him, but, Christian Kirk is Christian Kirk. Very, very solid wide receiver, but, isn't somebody that's just, that has the physical attributes of some of these more elite wide receivers, I guess, in the NFL. So look at, there's a no trade clause, so, there's not going to be any kind of funny business going on there. So, there are debates about, is Trevor Lawrence overpaid? Is this a good contract or not? Well, nowadays, players are paid and players are drafted based on what they can do, not necessarily what they have done. And, you've seen kind of in the past. Look, in 2018, Baker Mayfield was drafted over Josh Allen. Okay, Baker Mayfield was, Heisman Trophy winner, had a lot of success over there at Oklahoma. He went first overall and Josh Allen went later on. But if you compared the two, put them side by side, put them on the field, they start throwing rockets, you're going to sit here and be like, Josh Allen should actually be the higher drafted guy. But, they drafted Baker Mayfield based on, look what he's done for Oklahoma and look what Josh Allen has done for Wyoming. Not really all that much. You also look at 2020 when Tua Tagovailoa was drafted over Justin Herbert. Tua Tagovailoa was national championship winner out of Alabama. Everybody knew his name. He was I don't know if he won a Heisman, but he was definitely a Heisman like finalist. Everybody knew about him. You compare him to Justin Herbert over there at Oklahoma. Justin Herbert, I'm not even sure if he ever won the Pac-12 championship over there. And I'll be honest with you, I'm from Florida, don't really watch much Pac-12 football, but when you look at the college careers, Tua was way more accomplished than Justin Herbert. But if you put the two side by side on a field, obviously you're going to look at them and be like, Justin Herbert should be drafted first. And then once they start throwing around the ball, you're going to say Justin Herbert is way better than Tua Tagovailoa. But these guys got drafted based on what they've done. And then now you're definitely seeing kind of everything shift toward what players can potentially do. And that's what the Jaguars feel pretty good about Trevor Lawrence on, is that, okay, like, while, he's not, maybe doesn't have like the best numbers, and you compare him side by side. I know I've seen the Daniel Jones comparisons and the Mac Jones comparisons, and but it's a little bit unfair because, okay, are we going to take box scores into effect, or are we going to actually see these guys play, see the circumstance, and actually make your opinion there? I mean, Mac Jones was traded for a 6th-round pick with nearly identical stats as a Trevor Lawrence. But you think if the Jaguars tried to trade away Trevor Lawrence, all they would get is a 6th-round pick? You think that the Giants would not trade straight up Daniel Jones for a Trevor Lawrence and then give us more pieces? Absolutely they would. Now I know, that's kind of a casual fan, standpoint, and I can understand it in a way. Look, I don't watch every single, Miami Dolphins game, so I can't sit here and really tell you all about Tua Tagovailoa and whether he deserves a new contract. I can give you a casual fan and be like, oh, well, he has kind of a noodle arm. He doesn't elevate the team, in crunch time, but I can't really tell you all about, how does he look, second quarter, when he needs to convert a 3rd and 6. I'm not that deeply knowledgeable about that. So, but I can tell you I've watched every single Trevor Lawrence snap, and I know all about what he can do. And I know when you look at his numbers, they're definitely skewed because in 2021, he went 3-14 under Urban Meyer, which Urban Meyer, obviously we know, a terrible head coach. He's not even, debated about, was he a bad head coach? He's literally amongst the ranks of is he worst all time? You know what I mean? And he can definitely, if people actually put together top 5 worst head coaches in the NFL list, Urban Meyer is going to be on damn near all of them. And unfortunately, that year definitely skews the stats. It skews his, overall winning percentage when you go 3-14. So it'll take a little bit to recover from that. But when you look at after him in 2022 through 2023, over 65% completion percentage in each year, touchdown interception ratio at a 46-22. And, and all that is really good. And of course, I'm someone that kind of writes off his rookie year based on circumstance, based on, they were basically depending on Trevor Lawrence to do anything and everything, where honestly his transition from Clemson, that offense, to the NFL was going to take a little bit of time. And, we all know everything shifted drastically after the injury. I mean, before the injury, he was 13-3 in his previous 16 regular season games. Just went to Houston, beat CJ Stroud to kind of almost stake claim on the AFC South until, he got hurt. Then he finished the year 0-5. Did not look like the same guy, suffering, ankle, knee, concussion, shoulder injuries, all that stuff, while not having any help in the run game, and the defense just kind of broke at the end of the season. So, with all that said, everything definitely shifted after that, but I'm one that firmly believes that, he is that dude. He is going to be able to lead us to the promised land one day. And with all that said, if you're somebody that believes that, the sooner you knock out this contract, the better. I know a lot of people are kind of nickel and diming. Oh, maybe he doesn't deserve $55 million a year. I think he deserves probably like 51 or 52. It's like, look, the biggest quarterback contract, like I said, is always the next quarterback contract, okay? And also, why wait at this point? I know people that are trying to nickel and dime want to sign Trevor Lawrence for less, but I think we've all been in a situation where maybe we've been a disgruntled employee. Maybe we feel like we are not earning as much in a company as we think that we should. And do you want Trevor Lawrence in a situation where we sign him to some smaller, measly, 3-year deal, and all of a sudden he goes out and absolutely kills it, And then all of a sudden he's like, look, I just led you guys to, AFC South title, AFC champ, wherever the Jaguars go, and he's on like a cheap, measly deal. Then you have a guy that's a little bit, disgruntled, and then you have all the, all the little tidbits where Trevor Lawrence's team isn't happy, this kind of stuff, okay? I know me. I believe in Trevor Lawrence. I like this contract. There's a lot going good here. And like I said, when you actually break things down, he's like the 11th highest paid quarterback. If he becomes the highest paid quarterback with this contract, that means that he is absolutely killing it, getting the Pro Bowls, leading us to, AFC South crowns and doing everything he needs to do to be, that dude. So with all that said, that's kind of what I want to break down for you guys. Pretty good contract, pretty low cap hits the first few years. And then I think after 3 or 4 years, we can probably renegotiate a little bit and, give him a little bit more signing bonus to relieve the cap a little bit. But, it's good that this contract is in place. Now the Jaguars can keep kind of trying to build the roster around that contract. So with all that said, appreciate you guys so much for watching. Do me a favor, drop a like on your way out, and go Jags.